Welcome, everyone. We're excited to welcome you to our webinar, focusing on the rise of emergency savings programs in the workplace. I want to start by just thanking our sponsor for this event, SecureSave. As we go through today's conversation, you're going to hear from some of the leading experts around personal finance, as well as employers and leading practitioners on the importance and impact that emergency savings programs can have for workers. We are facing a savings crisis in this country, as we continue to see more than half of the US population and adults within that population cannot afford an unexpected $1,000 expense. We also see that in the last 90 days, approximately 46% of the US population experienced an event that would constitute an emergency. Access to short-term liquidity and the ability to weather those inevitable shocks are not just an importance for the employee, but are increasingly an important component of an employer's overall total rewards and financial health program. I'm thrilled to welcome the first part of our panel today, a fireside chat with two of our leading experts in the country. There will be no Q&A during the fireside chat, but you will be able to ask questions for the panelists. I'd like to start by introducing Jennifer Tescher. Jennifer is the founder and CEO of the Financial Health Network. Under Jen's leadership, Financial Health Network has cultivated a network of over 160 influential member organizations, and we've invested in more than 40 fintechs. Jennifer is often out in front driving the national narrative on the importance of financial health through both her podcast, Emerge Everywhere, as well as an author and contributor to Forbes. Welcome, Jennifer. Joining Jennifer today will be renowned personal financial expert, Susie Orman. Susie is both the co-founder of SecureSave and has been called a force in the world of personal finance and a one-woman financial advice powerhouse. Susie is a two-time Emmy Award winner, author of 10 consecutive New York Times bestsellers. She's been recognized widely in a number of other arenas for her extremely popular Women in Money podcast. And perhaps most importantly, she has been spoofed 4 times on Saturday Night Live. I think one of the more recent examples of Susie's excellent awesomeness is she acknowledged my beard and the fantastic epic nature of that beard during one of our prep sessions. Welcome, Susie. Jennifer, please take us away.
Thanks, Matt. Susie, it is a thrill to get to talk to you today. Thanks so much for joining us on this podcast.
My pleasure.
So I want to start with how America is doing in terms of their finances. You hear from tons of people, whether it's through your podcast, whether they're writing into you, taking your classes, reading your books. What can you share with us about the state of Americans' finances?
I think you have to address what state, in a sense. The people that have money, that are rich, they're getting richer. But I can tell you that the middle class, in my opinion, has totally disappeared. And I feel like people are more going into a state of poverty versus prosperity. It's almost as if no matter how much money they make, they can't afford to buy things. My biggest complaint from people is they cannot afford to buy a home. And Jennifer, when you take away the American dream and think about it, what is the American dream? It's to one day own a home. And now prices of homes and interest rates on mortgages are out of sight for them. They don't even know if they can afford rent. They really feel totally as if they're financially lost. The majority of them don't even have an emergency savings account, and that makes them feel absolutely destitute and afraid.
So you've been doing this a long time. How do you compare how folks are faring today relative to other points in history?
I have to tell you, I think they were doing better when I first started all the way back. They seemed to have a pension, even if it was a small pension that could support their lifestyle. They almost all owned a home or were able to buy a home and be paying it off. It's as if they had hope. They had the ability to dream the American dream. And I really feel, I'm so sorry to say this, is that for the majority of people out there, they don't feel that way anymore. All the money that they have, if they have any, is in their 401k plan, and they're even afraid to put all that they should be putting into a retirement account, because if something were to happen, they don't have money to pay bills. So I don't think they are doing as well today as they were years and years ago.
And what do you think is driving that shift?
Well, I think the cost of everything, and not only the cost of everything, but the ease of people to be able to spend money via the internet, and that they no longer have to wait to buy something.
Mm.
Years ago, remember, I started now over 40 years ago. You didn't have the ability to just push a button on Amazon. Amazon wasn't there. You didn't have the thing that you walk by a store and all of a sudden, a few minutes later, your phone sends you a message that if you come in the store, you can have 10% off. The ease to be able to purchase something, the brilliance of the advertisers that want to sell you something, being able to come into your home, even if you just talk about it, and you're not even on your phone, the next day you will receive something that says, hey, do you want to buy this? Because it's what you talked about the day before. So our temptation and the speed of which we can get something is just so increased. It's almost like a true financial trap for people.
Yeah, I appreciate you raising sort of the double-edged nature of technology and frankly, willpower, because while it's important as one is trying to improve their financial situation to do the hard things, make the hard choices, willpower alone isn't gonna get folks there. People are already working quite hard. And I sort of reject the idea that for most people, the problem is that they're just simply profligate spenders. I think, you know, when you're up against such creative marketers and a country where 70% of GDP is based on spending, like you're already at a disadvantage.
You're at a real disadvantage because they're really smart marketers. And you're really, I don't mean to be insulted, but a dumb consumer because you are buying anything and everything they have to sell you. So it's very difficult for people to say, no, I don't want that. Especially, I just have to say that the less money they have, the more afraid they feel, the less hope they have. They do become hopeless. And then it's like, well, why shouldn't I just put it on a credit card and pay the minimum payment due? Why shouldn't I be able to have what everybody else has because I work so hard?
Yeah.
And all these people have all these things. I want these things. What they're not saying, or what they're not seeing actually, is that the things that other people have been charged on credit cards, their cars have been leased, they have debt up to their eyeballs, and they don't see the truth behind the people that they want to emulate.
Yeah. So you give financial advice and guidance on an incredible range of topics, but among the 2 or 3 things that you have always advocated for, savings has been at the top of your list. Say more about why.
Well, the unknown always becomes the known in people's lives. You never expected to lose your job. You never expected that 2006, 7, and 8 was going to hit, where you had a really great job. And then all of a sudden, everything goes to pot in your home that you just bought for $700,000 in Tampa, that you put $140,000 deposit on or down payment on, is now worth $110,000. Nobody ever expects what could happen. And the only thing that is going to get you through is to have an emergency savings account. And there's a difference, truthfully, between an emergency savings account, or what I call the must-spend account, where you have enough money in an account that can pay for your must-pay bills, your mortgage or your rent, your car payment, the things you know you must pay. And what I call an emergency savings account, which is really what we're talking about today, an employer-sponsored emergency savings account, where people for the first time have $100, $400, maybe $1,000, because where poverty begins is you don't have enough money to get a new tire for your car, to fix your air conditioner or get a new air conditioner or your refrigerator. You don't have that kind of money. So what do? You put it on your credit card. The credit card comes in, and what do? You pay the minimum payment due. Now something else happens. You still don't have the money. And there we go on the cycle into poverty. So an emergency savings account for the unexpected little expenses that come up is really what saves you in the long run and eventually allows you to build up what I call that must pay account if you lose your job.
So for the average consumer, when they're thinking about the emergency savings account, how much should they be thinking about? You know, there's a variety of different rules of thumb. You know, we survey Americans every year around the state of financial health, and we ask about, do you have enough savings to cover 3 months of expenses? Other people talk about shorter periods of time. Other people talk about a particular dollar amount. How would you recommend people think about that?
So again, we have two different types of accounts. The must pay account, you lose your job, you get in an accident, you're sick, whatever it is, and you can't work for a long period of time. I recommend, and always have for years now, an 8 to 12 month emergency fund. Think back to 2008 when people did lose their jobs. It took them at least 8 months to a year to get rehired or get back on their feet. However, that's one account. But you can't have that until you have what's called, in my opinion, an emergency savings account. An emergency savings account is when a little unexpected thing happens. So you first have to be able to walk before you could run over here. So over here, even if you get $400, $1,000, and for the first time in your life, think about it. You have $1,000 saved. And how did you save it? You saved it by just having your employer take out whatever money you've designated from your paycheck. They matched it, whatever it may be. It's in an account. You can get it whenever you want. If you leave, you can get it. When you have that, all of a sudden, psychologically, what has happened to you is that hopelessness that I talked about is replaced by hope because you can see it. Many of you may not remember what it's not like, to have $1,000. But the majority of people out there couldn't even dream that that was possible. Once they feel that way, they then like saving more than spending. As soon as they like saving more than spending, then they're willing to put more money into a retirement account because they're not afraid. Then they even see all of that growing more. And then all of a sudden they start working on what? Their emergency savings account, or extra money does what? Gets them out of credit card debt.
Yeah.
But that is the scenario of a true, solid financial foundation.
Got it. So as you mentioned, we're here today talking about employer-based emergency savings programs. This is a relatively new topic for you. Why now? Why employers?
Actually, it's not a relatively new topic for me. Because back in 2007, very quickly, I'll tell you this story.
Please.
I realized that everybody had no money. So I went and I made a deal with TD Ameritrade. It did not cost me anything, where if people just put $50 a month into an FDIC insured savings account with them, would they give them $100 at the end? And TD Ameritrade, Joe Mowgli at the time thought, maybe 10,000 people would do it. Okay, it's going to cost them just a few bucks, really. 150,000 people did it within a 1 or 2 month period of time with just a little thing, a stamp on one of my books, no publicity. That's when I knew if you could automate it, if you can pay people to save, we have now solved a problem. But I only reached 150,000 people. What if all the employers got on board and they did the exact same thing with small amounts of money, automated from people's paychecks? We're not talking about a few 100,000 people. Now we are talking about millions and millions of people throughout the entire United States, if not the world, because the employers have that many employees. So that I know this works, which is why I joined forces with Devin and Bassam.
Say a little bit more about how you came to meet them and join on with SecureSave.
Well, never before had I wanted to be part of a fintech. I had gotten calls from the founder of Mint and this one and that one. Come on, Susie, let's do this. And you know what every one of them said to me? They talked to me about, we can do this, we plan to go public in this much time, and this how much money you can make. And I was like, no, thank you. Devin and Bassam, I think, were introduced to me from some of their venture capitalists that had funded Secure Save. And they called, and essentially what they said to me was, number one, the name of the company was Secure. And for years, I've always said that the goal of money is for you to be secure. And I'm going, oh, they're smart enough to say that. Not once did they talk to me about how much money I would make, how much money they would make. The only thing they talked to me about was the mission of changing the savings accounts of America. And what we could finally do, we could do something that really means something and could help people. Signed on the bottom line right then and there.
That's incredible. So we have a lot of people, HR folks, total comp and benefits folks listening in today, and who may watch this later. What advice or guidance do you have for them as they're thinking about the financial health and wellness of their own employees? Certainly savings and the Secure Save offering, but what else? What else can you tell them as they start to think about how to do more for their workforce?
Yeah. Here's what I've learned over all the years. I've been paid tens of millions of dollars to go to major corporations and talk to the employees on behalf of the HR people. And we tried to do, here's books I've written for you, here are videos I've written for you, here you can go and see everything about your retirement plans and everything. Nobody ever used any of them. What I learned is that when people don't have a lot of money, you can't talk to them about investments and this and that. You have to talk to them and give them benefits as to where they happen to be. So the best advice that seriously I could give to you is talk to your employees. Ask them, what is it that they need? What is it that they want that currently your company doesn't offer? And I will make you any amount of bet on that they will tell you they love the retirement account, but they're afraid to put a lot into the retirement account at this moment in time. They want something that can help them, like an emergency savings account. And maybe Devin will address this later, but we've done surveys about what is it that people want. So people really just want simplicity, everybody. They don't want all of these choices. They just want something that can help them where they are right now in this time and what's going on in the economy. And truthfully, I'm not sure an educational program is worth it. And that's hard for somebody like me that tried for years to do that in corporations.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. We've always felt like financial education, as some people tend to call it, or financial literacy, assumes that the problem is all the person's, right? And often it's like you said, folks don't have access to the kinds of tools that might help them. So in this instance, right, to put aside a little bit of money directly from their paycheck, as an example. And so I really appreciate this reflection kind of on your career and what about it has worked and not worked. I also have always been so taken by your message that money is ultimately emotional. And if you're not dealing with the emotions and what that then triggers for somebody, you're not ultimately going to be successful. So as we close out here, any last reflections on how to talk to people about the emotional side of money?
Yeah, I've always said that you can never fix a financial problem with money. You have to understand, why is it happening? And I've always said to people, you have to go within to see why you're doing without. So also, just HR people, everybody now that's listening to this, remember that besides your title and what you do, think about how you handle your own money and your own triggers. And when you get afraid and know that you're really no different than the people that work for you or with you, and that we're really all the same. So when you just talk to people as if they're people versus HR to employee, you'd be amazed at the transformation that you can create.
Mm. Susie, thank you so much for your leadership, and you're just incredibly inspiring. Thanks for being here today.
And best of luck to all of you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Susie, for really kicking us off and really setting the table, giving us a broader context onto the financial lives of the U.S. workforce. I want to turn now to introduce our panel, who's going to take us the rest of the distance here. First, I'd like to introduce the CEO and co-founder of SecureSave, Devin Miller. He'll be joined by Glenn Gatus, who is the CEO and founder of 3R Technologies, Pam Bierke, who is the CHRO, Chief Human Resource Officer, for those who are not in the acronym game, at Stearns Bank. And moderating and guiding this conversation will be Mel Hightower. Mel is not only a board member of the Financial Health Network, but also the managing director and head of multicultural strategic client segments at UBS. Mel, please take us away.
Thanks so much, Matt. And thanks to Jen and Susie for such an insightful conversation. So we're going to continue the discussion with Pam, Devin, and Glenn. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Pam and Glenn, we'll start with you. Could you walk us through your respective organization's decision to implement an employer-sponsored emergency savings program? So when did you first become aware of emergency savings programs, and why was it important for your companies to offer one? Pam, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Great, thank you. We were fortunate to begin our formalized program with SecureSave back in 2022. Our CEO and president, Kelly Skalicki, had a great relationship with Devin Miller and heard about the program and the opportunity. And she saw the alignment that Stearns Bank has with SecureSave's mission and intentionally providing our team members a best-in-class comprehensive benefit package. It incorporates holistic financial wellness and knowledge. And to Susie's point, it was simple. So it was a really great way to build in the values that we have internally of financial discipline and community and family values. And by giving our team members an opportunity to establish something as simple as an emergency savings fund is just an incredibly valuable tool to have and habit for our team members to build on. It also aligned really well with our DE&I and equity journey that we've been on in providing more holistic equity to our team as they continue to build on their financial health and wellness.
Great, thanks, Pam. And Glenn, what about you? What was your journey?
Yeah, very important question. I actually was introduced to SecureSave through an investment fund. I was a member of the diligence team. So I was looking at it from an investment opportunity. And I thought, not only is this a great idea and a great company, but it was a great fit for our company. 3R Technology, we're a pretty small employer, but we're really benefit focused, and a significant portion of our team may be new to the workforce in general. So this may be their first job in the US, maybe the first job period. We have a lot of people that are returning to the workforce through special programs that we work with. So this may also be the first time they are encountering questions around like what the budget, what is financial health, what does that look like, what are they thinking about in terms of retirement. So I thought this was a great idea. As a smaller employer, we already had a great benefits program, healthcare, 401k, employee purchase program. All that stuff was really important to me as we grew the company. So I thought, hey, this is a great fit. This is a great, addition to the package of benefits we already offer.
What I'm struck by is that even though you're both in different industries, and even though you came to the knowledge of SecureSave through different paths as an investor and looking at it from a human resources perspective, what I'm struck by is that in the end, it ultimately aligned with both of your businesses' goals and culture for your workforces. So that's incredible to hear. So now that you've had the emergency savings program in place, what impact have you seen so far from it? Are there metrics or success stories that you can share to highlight the impact the programs have had on your employees' financial health? And Glenn, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Yes. Well, I know our team really likes it, and we know our team uses it. So on average, our employees who participate draw on it about every 3 months or so. So that's actually a lot more frequent than we thought. They don't always specify the reason, but we've seen inflation, moving expenses, travel, unexpected car repairs are a big one. These are conversations that our HR person has with the employees sometimes, but obviously they can draw on it for whatever reason they want to. So we don't always know, and that's fine. That's exactly, it should be there for them whenever they need it for whatever reason. So we're a small group, so our statistics may not provide as complete a picture, but just anecdotally, I can say people use it, they like it, and our user retention is 100%. So I feel like those are all really good signs that this is a healthy program.
No, I agree. I think utilization in particular is a great sign of the program. And then Pam, what's been your experience?
Yeah, we've had just an incredible participation rate from our team. Our initial goal that we set out was to have 100% of our team, which is just shy of 500 employees, sign up for SecureSave, and we achieved that goal in 2022, which was excellent. Of those initial employees who signed up, we continue to have 97% retention, so outstanding participation. People value it. When we include new hires, we're still in that 93% range of participation. And in the last 16 months that we've used the program, we've accumulated over $586,000 for emergency savings. Like, that's just an incredible number for our team to really think about how when they have a need, they can use it. The average rate for our team and balance right now is just under $700 per participant. So it's just been an outstanding program that we've had really high utilization and great retention of our team to continue to participate in.
Wow, these are incredible results. I mean, I'm a former benefits manager, and we would light up at this kind of success rate, particularly compared to some of the other benefits offerings you see across the landscape. So I've got to ask about your implementation approach. So can you talk a little bit about the strategies that you used in order to gain that kind of participation? Pam, why don't you start?
Yeah, I think the key critical piece is you've got to get leadership buy-in. You need your president and CEO to be on board. And Kelly was extremely supportive in our education of our team and promotion of the benefit. And then we really looked at how do we incentivize our team financially as well, in addition to just being a great program. And so we did a $25 sign-on bonus for folks when they signed up. We match paychecks now. If people put in $25, they get a $5 match from Stearns Bank. And then if everyone signed up, we had two really great bonuses. Everyone got a $100 bonus. And Susie Orman made a bet with Kelly that if we hit 100% participation, she would give our team an exclusive money management webinar. And that was extremely impactful. The team was extremely excited. And following her spending time with our team, we saw a 6% increase in our 401k plan in addition to this 100% utilization. So it's really broadened our team and deepened the education and the action that they're taking to prepare themselves for retirement and to have better financial wellness.
Well, it sounds like the communication and sort of that tailored individual approach was a huge part of the success. And I know, Glenn, you mentioned that you have a smaller workforce. Can you share just the number of employees that you had and your approach to implementation?
Yeah, so we were just right around 30 employees. And, you know, I think the challenge for us, I almost want to say that there's two groups of employees when it comes to a benefit like this. And there are those that just get it. They're already financially, they're savvy and aware. They just sign on, they self-manage, like everything is good. And then there's sort of another group that you have to work with a little bit more. Again, if people are coming to the workforce, this is all very new to them. And healthcare is already super confusing for most people. So we spend a lot of time trying to help walk them through that. So this is another area where we feel like we have to walk people through this a little bit more. And we're actually revisiting this right now. We're doing a survey of all of our employees about our benefits and what they like and don't like, what they would like to see for improvement, changes. And I think for us, we actually could do a better job of following up and really working with each employee individually to make sure that they're taking advantage of each program to the maximum. So that's something that we're working on. I think with programs like this, as much as you want to say like, hey, here's this thing, it's a virtual thing, it's online, you get a text message, you sign up, you do all those kind of things, you actually still need to talk to people. And I think that's part of a challenge, even as a small employer you have, where with the number of employees you have, which may be small, but your number of managers are also small. You have one HR person. And so trying to accomplish all that is sometimes a challenge. But I think that's the key thing for us is communication, follow through, and you have to spend a little more time with people because of the nature of our workforce and because of the complexities of all the benefit programs that are out there.
Right. And so it sounds like no matter the size of the company, the hands-on approach is really key to be able to get the message directly to people one-on-one.
Yeah, for our
And
workforce, yes, yeah, absolutely.
yeah, absolutely. So Devin, I'd love to bring you into the discussion as well. How does what Pam and Glenn have shared really compare to what you're seeing overall? So what additional best practices can you talk about with respect to having a successful implementation for an emergency savings program?
Yeah, so there's really kind of, I would say, three key legs to the stool, so to speak. Number one, the program has to be very easy, has to be easy to understand. And I think back to what Glenn and Pam talked about, ultimately, you're going to have to communicate in some form or fashion to your people. And, what's interesting about Glenn and Pam's organizations, and we see ones that are 10 times bigger than Stearns and then 10 times bigger than that again. And always you have to have very clear and easy communication. This is what it is. This is what it is not. This is how you use it. This is what it's for. And also it has to be incredibly easy to sign up for. And so we have an invitation-based system. It's either text or emails. And that text or email is definitely going to be benefited if the employee knows it's coming and there's kind of that internal communication and kind of executive stakeholder support, like expect this and this is what it is. But once it comes, it only takes a couple clicks and a couple fields to get signed up for the emergency savings account with SecureSave. And that's really important for a program overall. If it's not easier to sign up for than your bank or credit union down the street, then there's really no difference in value immediately. That it has to be very easy to understand and it has to be exactly what they want. The second thing is it has to be automated. And both with, and this is with every employer that we work with, there's that payroll connection that's really important. So we work with employers to make sure that they've connected to those programs. Both 3R and Stearns have pretty standard incentive programs that we see. Obviously, those incentives are really important, which is kind of the third leg of the stool. But a little bit of money goes a long way, where you've got easy incentives that are very kind of obvious to understand, and it's all automated. And so for an employee, okay, this is easier than I can get anywhere else. It's more automated than anything I can do on my own, and I get some extra incentive to be able to do this. Those are the three legs of the stool that really we see over and over and over again at companies of all sizes. And as long as you have those three combined with really good and clear communication internally from the team and the company, then we see very consistent results. 61% adoption is our standard. The team at Stearns just crushed it. And I'll credit their culture and their executive team really challenged the company to lean into it. But again, 61% is what we typically see across, a wide variety of companies and sizes. And so you can have incredible results as long as those three things are present.
And Devin, just a quick follow-up, and I'm struck by this because, again, comparing something like an emergency savings program to a 401k program, also sort of a savings vehicle that's meant to provide protection to employees, but yet still we don't see the same level of traction with 401k retirement programs. Can you talk a little bit about, any hypotheses around why that might be?
We have a few different things. If you go back even a couple decades, short-term money matters is often cited as the number one source of stress for people. And if you kind of pull at that and dig into it, people really resonate with the idea of emergency savings. And unfortunately, they're their own worst enemy. And Susie talked about this, the idea of it's just hard to save. And there's a lot of kind of mental blockers and also just friction in products. It's harder to sign up for, it's not automated. But people love this idea. And when you present them with a solution of, I'll solve those problems for you. I'll make it easier. I'll make it automated. And I'll give you a little bit of incentive to make sure that it just is a no-brainer. It's amazing what happens when those are presented to people. And it really just recognizes that this is such a top-of-mind problem for such a huge set of people out there that it's obvious why they adopt to it. You've kind of solved all their problems. You've given them something that solves one of their top sources of stress and concern in life, and you've made it easy. And that for us was something that we saw very early in testing and discovery, that this is very simple if it's done right, and it can have this massive effect because it really feeds to the kind of core needs for so many people out there. But what I think is most important about it as well is that it actually works. I mean, you see savings balances continue to grow. An adoption rate of an emergency savings program is nothing if the person is not saving. They do have to utilize it, and that's key. But if they're not continuing to build that savings and have it available for them, then in our mind, it wouldn't work. And that's the part that we're most excited about. And so obviously, you know, a good emergency savings program is also going to really demonstrate that it's going to build that balance over time.
Right. And continuing that thread, right, as you think about the success of Secure Savings Program. So Secure 2.0 really raised the profile of emergency savings accounts. And so since that law went into effect, what are you seeing? So for example, are you seeing that, and we have a question in the chat, that are you seeing retirement providers such as Fidelity or BlackRock really offering their own emergency savings programs as a bundling option alongside 401k plans for employers? Talk a little bit about what you're seeing in the broader landscape.
Yeah, I think to answer all of that, whether it's Secure 2.0 or different solutions that are out there, there's definitely a surge of momentum around this topic. And I think a big part of that is because, and this is a positive connection, we've connected short-term emergency savings to long-term retirement readiness and improving people's retirement readiness in this country, which is somewhat a completely separate problem in one respect, but I think these are very linked. You need to get people to be more financially secure and capable for the unexpected. I love Susie's quote, the unknown becomes the known. And you have to help people prepare for all of those unknowns. And the better prepared they are, even just a few $100s, a couple $1,000s, is going to make them better long-term savers. And so whether it's retirement providers, financial well-being providers, banks, policymakers, this connection of the importance of short-term liquidity to improving retirement readiness is something that I think you see showing up in Secure 2.0, the idea that there's emergency savings provisions that are there. And I think really the path that we're on with this category of emergency savings is now permanently connected to retirement readiness. And I think that that is what's also driving so much momentum around emergency savings, is because it's part of a broader coalition of stakeholders that are working on a bigger problem as well. And they're seeing the results of emergency savings programs, like you hear from Glenn and Pam, that if it's done well, if it's easy, if it's automated, and if there's a little bit of an incentive, then we can really start to turn the tide on that short-term liquidity. And I love the story that Pam told of, seeing an increase in retirement participation. But also, this is all net new money. One of the things that we've seen in working with employers, we're not robbing from retirement to fund an emergency savings account. These are net new dollars being saved. And that is going to be really important to, I think, solve these broader problems. So Secure 2.0 has really definitely increased the awareness around this collection of problems, the connectivity to it, but also it's just driven more questions and curiosities around how do these programs work and what success they have. And as you dig into that, the results are really amazing. And I think it's going to point to a long journey now over the next number of years to see these types of accounts just propagate out into the population. And that's going to be very impactful.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned the link potentially to overall retirement readiness. And I think more broadly, as we think about it, the link to financial health as we think through it. And so with that, I'd love to just pull back a bit and Pam and Glenn really get your view on how your emergency savings program has really informed your approach to understanding the financial health of your employees. And so Pam, I'd love to start with you.
Yeah, I think the reflection of really looking at the participation rate with our team, the ability for our team to continue to grow in their 401k has been a really great indicator of the health. And then the fact that people are using the program when they need it has been a really great sign of the health and wellness of our team as we continue to move forward.
Great. And Glenn?
So, yeah, our company, we're based near Seattle, right? So we're already in a really, really expensive part of the world, and the economy has been inflationary, and we see all that. We definitely feel it. Everybody feels it. Everybody talks about it. So I think this is an example of a program that really it's the right time. There never was a wrong time, but it's particularly a right time to have this sort of emergency savings account in place for our employees. And I do feel like it's sort of a gateway drug for 401k, right? We have employees that are coming in that are not thinking about retirement, not thinking about long-term liquidity and savings and thinking about what that looks like for them. So this is a way to start that conversation around financial health and savings and retirement and all that. And again, you know, it doesn't take the place of competitively and more than competitively compensating employees. Employees still look at that bottom line of like, how much am I going to get paid? How, you know, what are my expenses? What do I need to take home? So you really work on that, but it's just one of those extra things that really helps to build in something that will really serve them well in all these aspects, emergency savings, and then towards long-term savings and retirement. And that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to build a team and retain a team that is healthy, right? You know, you have healthcare because that helps keep people healthy and helps your employees stay with you for a long period of time and be great citizens. And so this just complements it really well.
Hey,
And
Mel, can
I
go
go
ahead.
ahead, Devin.
No, I was just gonna add another anecdote. We have about 1,000 employee manufacturing firm that we work with, and you know, one thing that really struck out to me, an anecdote about when they deployed, they have great benefits, and I think that's very consistent across our employers. Is that these are companies, and you know, Glenn and Pam and 3R and Stearns are examples of this. They have great benefit programs, and they really lean into that, into the value that they provide. And what they're trying to do is reach those people that maybe they're not reaching with other programs or not utilizing them well. And this 1,000 employee manufacturing firm, when they launched, a couple of things struck to me when we went through that program with them, the deployment. One was when they presented to the employees, they said, look, we have a great 401k. We're excited for you to use it. We want you to continue to participate. This program is to be a companion with it, so that you better use the 401k. You get more comfortable to be able to use it. And we view that because this account, the emergency savings account, is for short term. Your tires go out, you need a new battery, use that. Stop taking withdrawals from your 401k for that stuff. And that was a problem that they had, especially in their manufacturing facility. And the second thing that they said to us was when they saw the signups and people that were enrolling, like, this is great, because some of the people that were enrolling were those very people that they were struggling to get to participate in a 401k or a health savings account. They were reaching those employees that they knew needed it most. And that is, I think, a great example of what you're going to find in an emergency savings program. It's kind of, it's really going to reach those people that you've been having a hard time reaching and getting to engage in different programs. And hopefully will get them to either use or join something like a 401k more effectively as well.
No, I love the idea of it being sort of this entry point, this sort of common sense entry point to a richer benefits offering that employers do have. And just thinking about that in terms of an entry point, I'd love to hear more about, there was a question that came up in the Q&A about whether or not this could potentially be a transition opportunity or an entry point for unbanked employees. And Glenn, I just want to turn it over to you because I know you mentioned that your workforce, many of whom this might be their first job. So curious if you have any thoughts on or any experience with implementing this program with previously unbanked employees, or just thoughts in general about overcoming resistance or suspicion of employees who may not be familiar with employer benefits programs, just in general, because this is their first job, about an emergency savings program?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I would say we haven't actually had the experience of working with any of our employees who are unbanked. I don't think that's come up, but they've usually gone through some sort of process before. You know, for example, if they've come through a placement program, they literally are new to this country. And that's actually part of the process of something they've gone through with the agencies that they've worked with. So we haven't had to deal exactly with that. But yeah, I think sometimes it's it's sort of like the 401k. It's really hard to convince people. Sometimes it's like, hey, this is free money. Like, you should do this. We're giving you free money in the 401k. Like, put some money in it. We're matching you. It's free money. You should always take free money. But sometimes it just takes again, I think it's communication. I think it's having that conversation. And one thing I would say for us is that has been a real boon with this is that it's a simple program to manage and administer. And as a smaller organization, right, some of the benefits are tricky, are complex, and that puts a big weight on our operations department to take care of that, our HR. So if we can, with this sort of program, it's easy to implement, it's easy to communicate. It still sometimes can be tricky, right? For individuals who this doesn't really like strike a chord with right away, you have to work with them a little bit more. But I think the value is there. And once you can get people to this point of understanding what this is for, what the value is, and again, they're getting some free money out of it, it gets much easier.
Hey,
And then
Malcolm,
Pam, go ahead, Devin. Go
Can I
ahead and
just
jump
add to
in
that?
there. And I wanted to open up to Pam as well, but go ahead, Devin.
really quick, that the point Glenn is making on the importance of simplicity for the employers is something that we heard over and over again, kind of early days. It's very hard for companies of all sizes running benefits, and benefits just keep getting more complex, retirement plans, healthcare especially. They want simplicity. They want automation as well. And the employees, the same thing. They want this to be completely liquid, no restrictions on the dollars. They want it to be able to be portable and take it with them. They don't want to have to fill out paperwork or have a week-long delay to get money. And that is very important for a successful emergency savings program, especially one that's going to be long-term successful in the broader market. It has to be exceptionally easy to manage and administer and use for both employees, employers of all sizes. And I think that's where ESAs as a category still have some work to do as legislation is passed and continues to roll out, simplicity scales. And that's something that we really continue to hear from customers.
No, and I agree. I think sometimes even as the sort of this incremental rollout that we're seeing with Secure 2.0, with the different provision that's going to come online, allowing folks to be able to contribute to a secure savings account through their 401k, I think it's adding complexity that might be off-putting to certain employees in general. And so with that, I think it's really important to try to break through with either personalized communication or a tailored approach. Pam, what are you seeing in terms of, are you seeing a difference in terms of employees who might be earlier in their career journey versus later in their career journey around their appetite for this program?
I think in terms of age level, it's interesting. We see more adoption on the 401k side with our younger generation sometimes than we do with our older generation. And we're unique in that we're an employee-owned organization, so that ESOP can have an impact on that component. But there is definitely a desire and willingness of the younger folks coming in and on board, looking for opportunities to build on generational wealth. And to Susie's point, they're looking to pay off their school debt. They're looking to buy a home. And so it's having that touch point of, here's a great avenue. So when your battery does die or you do need new tires, you've got that money sitting there. And I've got an individual on my team that falls in that category. She's a young college grad. And that's what happened this year. She needed an automobile fix, and she was able to use her Secure Save account and keep everything else on track. And people, what they really love about it here, myself included, is the app is simple. You get a notification when your payroll makes that contribution. So it's a reminder, even though you do kind of forget that it's just sitting there as that security when an emergency comes up, but it's easy to use. And so it was really impactful for us when we talked to our team and had that onboarding, that we had really intentional one-on-one conversations with people to understand, are there any concerns? And the fact that it's a portable opportunity for them, that they can move their money if they want to, and they can do that with relative ease, was a great selling point. And so for that reason, we've just had really great adoption, particularly by our newer employees that are younger in their careers.
And I love the point that you mentioned that, the emergency savings program allows employees to keep their retirement goals and other goals on track. They don't have to have, a withdrawal from an account that could potentially create an additional burden via tax. But with that, it actually makes me think, and I'd love to hear from all three of you in terms of, what are you seeing? Do you have any insight into what employees are using their withdrawals for, and what reasons are for withdrawal? Maybe we'll go Pam, Glenn, and then end with Devin. Pam, in addition to the example you gave us, what are you seeing from your for the reason that the program is being used for?
Yeah, it's interesting. There's been a variety of reasons. Automobile vehicle fixes come up, and medical expenses that are unexpected come up. And there are times where people will build up their balance and they may just decide to transfer a portion of that balance that they've accumulated into another fund as well. And so it's been really a great variety of ways that people have chosen to use the benefit for themselves.
Great. And Glenn, what have
Yeah.
you seen with your program?
I think people love the fact that they don't have to say what they use it for. So that we actually see about half of the people say just no, they don't say what it is, but that's fine, right? It's their own business. But we do see, I think one of the surprising ones was, we see the moving expenses, travel, car expenses, kind of expected sort of things. And that's one of our individuals told us that, like, she had to move, and that was like, she was able to use that to help offset those moving expenses, but also inflation. Right. And again, I keep coming back to it. It's like such a familiar refrain. And inflation is not the same everywhere. Again, we're in the Seattle area. Inflation is really, really rent inflation, huge, right? Rents have gone up tremendously for people. Gas has gone up tremendously. Every type of service that you can think of has gone up tremendously. And groceries have gone up. So really, we're seeing that inflationary impact hit us. And that's not necessarily, that's where the wages are going to come in. That's where you have to do everything else to compensate for that. But sometimes in the short term, people are just getting hit with something that they're not expecting because, of where we live and the reality of that.
Great. And Devin, what are you seeing?
Yeah, I actually just posted a link. We just launched this page today on our website, SecureSafe by the numbers. It actually digs in, and if you just scroll down to that page, you'll actually see a pie chart that shows a lot of the details of what we're seeing. So in the app, one of the things that's unique is there's a couple of things. One is it's all about emergency savings. So you don't have a balance, you have your emergency money. You don't have a transfer withdrawal button, you have get emergency money. And we don't actually hand out plastic on purpose. There's no card to swipe with SecureSafe. You have to come to the app and claim the money. And it's very transparent in there. It basically says, this is optional. This is just to kind of help you in case you need additional support. No employer or no one is reviewing and approving this. It's your money. You can use it anytime for any reason. But we do get really good insights out of this, and most users will fill this out. And there's a selection of things that you can choose from. And we see variations as the year goes by. And so a few examples. One is car and transportation is usually number one or number two. And we see inflation as kind of a catch-all. And what's interesting, we saw it kind of ebb and flow over the last year and a half as inflation was kind of going through its ebbs and flows. So it would surge up on the list or fall down on the list as inflation was kind of working through its cycle. But there's a long tail of random things, but a couple other details that are on this page. The average withdrawals are sub $200. They are also often very specific dollar amounts, like $148.50. We'll see weird numbers. And often people, more often than not, they're not taking their full balance. They're taking a portion of the dollars that they have saved. And even if they're withdrawing, they keep the autosave on. And so you'll see these balances kind of grow, and then they'll dip, and then they'll grow, and then they'll dip. And that's a very natural, healthy behavior we see. Glenn's team, I think it's good that they're using it. And obviously every organization, every team, and I can relate, Seattle's very expensive. But the average withdrawal is actually only 2 times per year is what we see in typical users. And so most people are just kind of letting the money sit. But you want them to use it. It's better that they use that versus going to credit cards versus going to their retirement plan or going to a payday lender. And so again, as I said earlier, like the healthy behavior that you're seeing is the things that we're most excited about.
Yeah, and I think, Devin, looking at the link that you shared, thank you so much. The healthy behavior goes beyond financial health. I mean, we're seeing and looking at the link that really low employee turnover as well too. I'd love if you could talk a little bit more about that, the impact that you've been able to show between an employer-sponsored emergency savings program and things like employee morale, productivity, or retention.
So I see, speaking of productivity, oh, sorry, was that for Pam? Pam, dive in.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Maybe we'll start Devin with you and then move to Pam.
Yeah, I see Carrie Leanna on the call commenting. So she's done some amazing research around productivity. And I think she actually posted her research on here, which is fantastic. We spent a lot of time with Carrie and really find what she's done to be groundbreaking and really trying to make this connection between specifically emergency savings programs like you're hearing about here today and productivity gains. And so I would just encourage people to go find that. We've also seen some really good early signs of retention gains, specifically of employees that are using emergency savings programs seem to stay at their employers more often. Now, what's causing that and how much is tied to this, way more research to be done, but there's something really exciting that's showing up in that data. But it all starts with just the retention of the program. And we see a tremendously high retention of employees staying in the program. And you can find more details of that link. But another thing that we see is that once you deploy an emergency savings program, the number of employees that are on the program generally only grows month over month. So it's much more like a 401k or HSA, as Pam spoke of this. As new employees join, they get re-invited and they join at a tremendously high adoption rate. So once you launch these programs, the number of employees that use them will only grow over time, and the amount of their deposits will only grow over time.
Wow. Pam?
Yeah, we're really fortunate to be a great place to work. And one of the variables that they measure annually is satisfaction with our retirement program. And we certainly think of this as a broader piece of that for our employees. And after the implementation, we went from a 95% overall very satisfied rate to a 99% overall very satisfied rate. So certainly saw a correlation as we implemented SecureSave in terms of satisfaction of our employees in retirement and savings opportunities. And then the absenteeism question, I think the piece that we've really focused in on is our turnover. And since SecureSave has been implemented, the last 2023, we were sub 4% voluntary turnover percent across the organization, which was about a decrease of 50% from the prior year. So we continue to see really great trending and know and have great confidence that SecureSave is a great variable in implementing positive trends for our culture and for our team.
Yeah, it's incredible to see the link, the sort of the immediate, demonstrable ROI that you're seeing. Glenn, what are you seeing in terms of your workforce?
Yeah, we're, since again, we're on the smaller side, it's more anecdotal than statistics, but, our employees love it. It's easy to manage. It's easy to implement. It was easy to implement, to integrate with our payroll system. And I would say it's one tool in the toolbox. So employees have been happier to have it, but it's not the only thing that we do to create a really supportive benefits package, as well as a really supportive culture, a really great culture in our business. So, I would say that there's some things that emergency savings program can't do. It can't provide for your retirement. It's not going to make it a fun place to work, or a supportive, healthy place, or a safe place to work, all those sorts of things. So you have to do a lot of different things to create that in your workforce and to get that benefit. But people give us the feedback that they really like it. They're using it. They appreciate it. And if employees feel supported and they feel cared for and they feel heard, they're more likely to be there for a longer period of time. They're more likely to be there at work and to not have other issues, because the emergency savings program helps with those unexpected issues. So yeah, positive all around.
Great. And one last round robin question before we close. Really quick, if someone's for those who might be listening and looking at this webinar, who are thinking about implementing an emergency savings program but hasn't started, what's one piece of advice that you would give them? We'll go Pam, Glenn, and end with Devin.
Yeah, I'd say get your senior leadership team involved, get your board to support the initiative, and then really connect to your team, and don't be afraid to have that one-on-one communication to build out the understanding and the simplicity of what this benefit can give those folks.
Thanks, Pam. Glenn?
Yeah, I would second that. And yeah, really understanding the demographics of your employees and what they need, and then being able to communicate it to them effectively, and the follow through. And it's something that we're continuing to work on as well. I think there's always room for improvement, but I think that's really important, is that communication, that follow through with your employees.
Great. Devin, if you could close this out.
Yeah, I would just say, take a look at the data and think about what a program might look for you. And often what we find is employers are very pleasantly surprised with how the richness of the data, the impact that we've been able to demonstrate with employers over and over and over again, and then combined with a lot of what you've heard here today, how easy it is, how automated it is, and generally the investment is nowhere near in scope and size, especially compared to the impact that you can have. And so a lot of employers, when they really dig in and look at the impact and the investment required of time, energy, and dollars, it's hard to find a benefit program that can compete with an emergency savings program for the impact to the investment required. And so that's why I think you see a lot more employers taking a look at launching those programs.
Great. Devin, Glenn, Pam, thanks so much for joining us today and sharing your experiences and insights. And I will turn it over to Matt for closing remarks. Thanks again.
Thank you, Mel. Really excellent job. Thank you, Pam. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you, Devin. for leading us through a really impactful conversation. We did have one question that came in at the very end, and although I don't work for SecureSave, this is something that we see all the time, which is employers are allowed to contribute directly to out-of-plan emergency savings accounts. And so that is one of the things that we do see employers taking into consideration as they're evaluating sidecar savings accounts versus out-of-plan savings accounts. This brings us to the end of our webinar, but it doesn't mean this is the end of our conversation. We have and are going to be celebrating our 20th anniversary. 20th anniversary, not just of Financial Health Network, but of the entire financial health movement. And I would encourage all of you to mark your calendars and join us in Chicago, June 5th through the 7th, for a deep dive into the financial health movement, some amazing outcomes that have been generated by this movement over the last 20 years, as well as big ideas and opportunities to chart the next trajectory for impactful solutions. We also recognize that this doesn't have to be the end of one-on-one conversations. You'll see in the chat here that we've included 2 contact information if you have additional questions. One, if you want to reach out directly to the SecureSave team, you can reach them at info@securesave.com. But here at the Financial Health Network, we have a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of resources that we also work with organizations on as they're evaluating the broader financial health needs of their workforce, including looking at and the pros and cons of emergency savings. So you can also reach out directly to me at mball, B-A-H-L, at financialhealthnetwork.org. Thank you all. Continue the conversation. This is huge momentum in the emergency savings space, and we look forward to seeing you all in Chicago in the coming months. Thank you.